The very name Hiligaynon comes from the root word ilig, which means to go downstream. To understand this ethnic group of over 8 million people scattered across the modern Philippines, you have to look at a culture defined by constant motion. Their own folklore begins with a journey. According to the Maragtas epic, dating back to roughly the year 1250, this map shows the legendary maritime route of 10 Bornean Datus. Fleeing the collapse of the Srivijayan Empire, they sailed across the sea until they reached the island of Panay. Instead of conquering the coastal lands by force, the Datus negotiated for them, purchasing the territory with gold and pearls. They made this historic pact with the Ati people, the indigenous hunter-gatherers who originally inhabited the island. Arriving by sea and negotiating a place on the coast set an early precedent for the Hiligaynon. From their earliest origin stories, they were a civilization in motion. But the island of Panay offered distinct geographic advantages. It had highly fertile volcanic soil and prime coastal access for ships. Because of these traits, the early Hiligaynon were able to build an advanced, river-dwelling society that regularly engaged in international trade with Chinese merchants. They spoke a distinct language and practiced a rich animist belief system, guided by spiritual mediums known as bailan. Long before Spanish ships appeared on the horizon, the Hiligaynon had already established a prosperous, spiritually complex society firmly rooted on the Panay coasts. The Spanish arrived in 1569. Over the centuries, religions blended, and the local city of Iloilo grew into a booming textile hub. Then, in 1855, the colonial government opened provincial ports to foreign trade. A British vice consul, Nicholas Loney, introduced modern milling equipment and financing. Almost overnight, textile weaving was wiped out, replaced by global sugar production. This exploding demand triggered a massive labor migration. Thousands left Panay, crossing the strait to neighboring Negros. This migration created a brutal economic split. It birthed a massive, landless working class known as the Dumon, spending their lives tied to the harvest. All that back-breaking labor funneled upward to the sugar barons, a small group of plantation owners who used the boom to build palatial ancestral mansions. The global appetite for sugar split the Hiligaynon society geographically, leaving a legacy of wealth disparity between the new plantation estates and the landless laborers who worked them. In the 1940s and 50s, the population experienced a second massive geographical displacement. Philippine President Manuel Rojas, a Hiligaynon himself, sponsored a large-scale government resettlement program aimed at southern islands. This map tracks the immense scale of the movement. Hundreds of thousands of Hiligaynon flewed far south into Mindanao, heavily populating areas like South Cotabato and vastly expanding their ethnic footprint. This sudden influx of settlers sparked immediate and long-lasting tensions over land and culture with the local indigenous and Muslim populations who already lived there. Within a few decades, government policy placed hundreds of thousands of coastal natives into the role of frontier settlers, navigating the social and land rights tensions of a new region. Today, you have a population shaped by 3 massive uprootings: Bornean refugees, colonial sugar laborers, and government-sponsored settlers. But instead of fracturing or diluting across the archipelago, the Hiligaynon forged a remarkably cohesive cultural identity. You can see it in their food. Dishes like La Paz Bok Choy and Grill de Nasal are cultural unifiers, served up with a regional hospitality they are famous for nationwide. You can hear it in their speech. The Hiligaynon language has retained its famous gentle lilt, surviving perfectly intact across the entire diaspora. The Hiligaynon identity remains a continuous flow, carrying the warmth and traditions of the Panay coasts to every new region they settle.